Welcome back, everyone, and if you're new here, I'm so glad you found the channel. We're on an exciting journey to reach 10k subscribers by next year, and every like, comment and subscription brings us one step closer. Your support means everything. Now, let's jump into today's video. The wind howled outside the Elysium Institute, its massive structure carved deep into Norway's ancient Jostedalsbreen glacier. Inside the facility's resurrection chamber, Dr. Isabella Morgan watched her breath form delicate clouds in the artificially cooled air. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the final settings on the biocontainment pod, a marvel of engineering that had taken 15 years to perfect. "Primary systems are ready," she announced to her team, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Around her, the resurrection chamber hummed with energy, its white walls housing the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. The room itself was circular, with the biocontainment pod at its center like some technological altar. Through the pod's transparent sections, Ava's reconstructed body lay peaceful and still. They'd spent years rebuilding her from the DNA found preserved in East Africa's cave systems, using breakthrough tissue regeneration techniques to recreate what they believed to be the first human to walk the earth. Her skin was darker than they'd expected, her features more refined than conventional anthropological models had suggested. Dr. Morgan's colleague, Dr. Thomas Blackwood, stood at the primary control station, his dark fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Consciousness extraction matrix is stabilized," he reported, glancing at the swirling patterns of light that surrounded the pod. "Neural pathway reconstruction is at optimal levels." The team had rehearsed this moment countless times, but nothing could have prepared them for the weight of reality. 30 of the world's brightest minds held their breath as the resurrection sequence began. The pod's surface shimmered with cascading waves of light, while beneath its transparent panels, Eva's body began to glow from within. "Biosignatures are strengthening," called out Dr. Yuki Nakamura from her station. "Brain activity detected and rising." Her voice caught with excitement as she added, "It's following the expected pattern, it's working." The light within the pod intensified, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. A high-pitched tone filled the chamber, rising in frequency until it hovered just at the edge of human hearing. Then, suddenly silence fell. In that perfect stillness, Eva opened her eyes. Dr. Morgan approached the pod carefully, her heart pounding. Eva's eyes tracked her movement with an awareness that seemed impossible for someone experiencing their first moments of consciousness after millennia. Those eyes were dark, almost black, and held a depth that made Morgan's scientific mind stumble. The pod's top panels slid away with a soft hiss. Eva sat up with unnatural grace, her movements fluid and precise. When she opened her mouth to speak, the words that emerged weren't the primitive utterances they'd expected. Instead, she spoke in a language that made the universal translators stutter and fail, a language that seemed to carry harmonics that shouldn't exist. "The cycle begins anew," she said finally, in perfect English, her voice carrying undertones that made the scientist's skin prickle. "The shepherds will be pleased." Dr. Morgan's excitement gave way to unease as Eva turned her gaze to each person in the room, seeming to look through them rather than at them. Something about her movements wasn't quite right, too smooth, too calculated, as if she were a predator assessing its environment. "Welcome back," Dr. Morgan managed to say, fighting the urge to step backward. "I'm Dr. Isabella Morgan. You're in a research facility in Norway. We've brought you back using advanced..." Eva raised her hand, cutting off Morgan's explanation. "I know what you've done," she said, her voice taking on a musical quality that seemed to resonate with the machinery around them. "But you don't yet understand why you were able to do it." A smile crossed her face, one that didn't reach those bottomless eyes. "The technology was a gift, you see, a seed planted long ago, waiting for the right moment to bloom." The monitors around the room began to flicker, their displays showing cascading errors as Eva swung her legs over the side of the pod. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, frost forming on the metal surfaces despite the environmental controls. "Dr. Morgan," Eva said, standing now, her hospital gown moving in a wind that shouldn't exist. "Would you like to know the truth about your world? About why humanity was allowed to progress to this point?" Before Morgan could respond, Eva's eyes changed, becoming for just a moment something that human eyes should never be. In their depths, Morgan caught a glimpse of vast structures floating in the void between stars, of beings whose very existence defied comprehension. Dr. Morgan sat across from Eva in the observation room, trying to maintain her professional composure, despite the growing sense of wrongness that permeated the air. The room was designed to be comfortable, with soft lighting and plush furniture, but Eva's presence made it feel alien and cold. 3 days had passed since the resurrection, and each moment had brought new impossibilities. Eva spoke 12 previously unknown languages, each one predating known human civilization by thousands of years. The linguistics team had nearly quit en masse after attempting to analyze recordings of her speech. The sounds seemed to affect their minds on a fundamental level, leaving them with migraine headaches and strange dreams. "Tell me about the stars," Dr. Morgan said, gesturing to the intricate diagrams Eva had drawn during their previous session. The papers covered an entire wall, showing star systems and celestial bodies that no human telescope had ever captured. Eva's lips curved into that unsettling smile again. "Your people see such a small fraction of what exists," she said, her voice carrying those strange harmonics that made the recording equipment malfunction. "The universe you perceive is like a shadow of a shadow, a reflection in a dark pool." She stood and walked to the wall of drawings, her movements too smooth, too precise. "These," she said, pointing to a cluster of stars she'd drawn in what appeared to be ultraviolet ink, "are the nursery worlds, places where life is shaped, guided, tested. Earth is one of many, though it holds a special place in the grand design." Dr. Morgan made a note on her tablet, fighting to keep her hand steady. "You mentioned the shepherds when you first awoke. Are they the same as what you call the overseers?" Eva turned, and for a moment, her shadow on the wall didn't match her form. "Names are difficult things, Doctor. Human languages lack the concepts to truly describe them. But yes, they are the same entities. They who watch, they who guide, they who harvest." The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. On the other side of the one-way glass, Dr. Blackwood and his team frantically adjusted their instruments, trying to account for the impossible energy readings emanating from Eva's body. "When I walked the earth in my first life," Eva continued, "they had already been ancient for eons. They seeded the stars with life, watching each species grow, testing their potential for advancement." She paused, considering her words. "Your kind believes you arose naturally, that your intelligence and technology are products of evolution and innovation. The truth is far more deliberate." Dr. Morgan leaned forward, despite her instincts screaming at her to maintain distance. "Are you saying humanity was created by these beings?" Eva laughed, a sound like wind through ancient ruins. "Created? No. Shaped, guided, pruned like a garden. They placed markers in your genetic code, buried knowledge in your collective unconscious, waited for you to reach certain points of development before introducing new variables." She turned to the window, and though it was one-way glass, she looked directly at each member of the observation team, calling them by name, despite never having been introduced. The monitors recording her vital signs exploded in a shower of sparks. "Your resurrection technology," Eva said, running her fingers along the glass, leaving trails of frost in their wake, "was one such gift. The dreams that inspired its creation were whispered into your scientists' minds over generations. Each breakthrough was carefully orchestrated, leading to this moment. Dr. Morgan found herself backing away as Eva's reflection in the glass began to shift, showing something else standing in her place. Why? Why guide us to resurrect you specifically? Because, dear Isabella, Eva said, her voice now containing layers of other voices, ancient and powerful. Every garden needs a gardener. Every experiment needs an observer. Every harvest needs someone to separate the wheat from the chaff. She turned back to face Morgan, her eyes now containing swirling galaxies. I am both the herald and the harbinger. Through me, the overseers will determine if humanity is ready for the next phase, or if another reset is required. The lights in the facility flickered, and somewhere deep below something ancient stirred in its sleep. Eva smiled again, and this time her teeth seemed to reflect light that wasn't there. Would you like to know how many times Earth has been reset, Doctor? How many civilizations have risen and fallen on this world, each one reaching for the stars before being pruned? Before Dr. Morgan could respond, every screen in the facility lit up simultaneously, showing impossible images, cities that predated known history, technologies that defied physics, and creatures that walked the earth long before humans. Through it all, Eva stood perfectly still, her presence growing larger somehow, as if she were expanding beyond the confines of human perception. Dr. Morgan's hands shook as she reviewed the footage from the previous night's security cameras. The video showed Eva walking through the facility's sealed doors as if they were mere illusions, her form casting multiple shadows under single light sources. More disturbing were the moments when she would stop and stare directly into the cameras, her eyes reflecting back constellations that didn't exist in Earth's viewable sky. We have to consider containment, Dr. Blackwood argued during the emergency meeting. The conference room felt too small for the 12 senior researchers gathered there, their faces pale under the fluorescent lights. Whatever she is now, she's not the simple early human we thought we were resurrecting. Dr. Nakamura shook her head, her voice trembling. Containment? Did you see what she did to the reinforced doors? They're molecular bonded titanium, and she walked through them like mist. We couldn't contain her even if we tried. The room fell silent as the door swung open. Eva stood in the doorway wearing the simple white clothing they provided her, but somehow making it look like ancient royal garments. The air around her seemed to bend and twist, creating subtle distortions in reality itself. Please, she said, gesturing to an empty chair that suddenly appeared at the head of the table. Don't let me interrupt your discussion about my containment. Her voice carried undertones that made several researchers grip their heads in pain. Though I should mention that the concept of physical barriers is rather quaint, given what's coming. Dr. Morgan found her voice first. What exactly is coming, Eva? Eva's smile was almost gentle, like a parent preparing to explain something difficult to a child. The awakening, of course. The monitor stirs in its sleep, responding to my presence. Soon it will rise, and Earth will remember its true purpose. She raised her hand, and the air above the conference table shimmered. A three-dimensional image appeared, showing Earth from space. But this wasn't the Earth they knew. Massive structures became visible beneath the oceans, geometric patterns that had been hidden for millennia. Your planet is not just a rock orbiting an average star, Eva explained, her voice taking on that multi-layered quality that made human ears ache. It is a mechanism, a tool, a testing ground. Those structures, you see, they are older than your species, older than most species. They are the roots of the monitor, planted by the overseers when this solar system was young. The image zoomed in, showing enormous complexes beneath the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean. Architecture that defied human understanding, built from materials that shouldn't exist. Every few millennia, a species on Earth reaches a critical point in their development, Eva continued, standing now, her movements causing ripples in the air around her. They begin to understand the fundamental forces of the universe, start to peek behind the curtain of reality. That's when the monitor awakens and the overseers evaluate their progress. Dr. Morgan watched in horror as the image changed, showing civilizations rising and falling across Earth's history. Cities that predated known history, technologies that surpassed their own, all rising to great heights before vanishing completely. Most fail the test, Eva said, her eyes now showing swirling nebulae. They become too violent, too destructive, too hungry for power without the wisdom to wield it. Others simply lack the potential for true advancement. All are reset, their knowledge harvested, their consciousness collected and stored. The image shifted again, showing massive vessels descending from the sky, beings of light and shadow moving across the Earth's surface. The researchers watched as entire civilizations were transformed, their very essence drawn up into the cosmos. But humanity, Eva continued, her form seeming to grow larger, more abstract. Humanity is different. You've developed in unexpected ways. The overseers are intrigued. That's why they guided you to resurrect me. I am their instrument, their eyes, their voice. Through me, they will determine if you are ready for ascension, or if you require another reset. Dr. Nakamura found the courage to speak. And what if we refuse? What if we don't want to be part of their plan? Eva's laughter filled the room, a sound that carried echoes of extinct species and dead stars. Refuse, my dear. You've been part of their plan since the first human looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. Every major leap in human development has been guided, every crucial discovery shaped by their influence. Even now, as we speak, the Monitor's influence reaches into the dreams of billions, preparing them for what comes next. The lights in the facility flickered, and deep beneath the Earth's crust, something vast and ancient shifted in its slumber. Eva's form became momentarily translucent, showing glimpses of something else beneath her human appearance. "The harvest approaches," she whispered, her voice now containing the memories of 1,000 dead worlds. "The only question that remains is, will humanity be gathered as wheat, or burned as chaff?" The first signs appeared over the Pacific Ocean. Pilots reported seeing lights beneath the waves, pulsing patterns that seemed to follow their aircraft. Ships' instruments failed without explanation, their crews reporting a deep, subsonic hum that made their bones vibrate, and their dreams turn strange. In the Elysium Institute, Dr. Morgan watched the global feeds with growing dread. Eva stood beside her, unnaturally still, her presence making the air feel thick and heavy. "The Monitor dreams of waking," Eva said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the windows vibrate. "Its dreams ripple through the collective unconscious of your species. Haven't you noticed the changes in human behavior worldwide?" She was right. Reports flooded in from every continent. People experiencing shared visions, children speaking in long-dead languages, masses of people sleepwalking toward the oceans. The phenomenon had begun 3 days ago, the same day Eva had revealed the truth about the underwater structures. "Look," Eva pointed to a live feed from Easter Island. The ancient Moai statues had begun to glow from within, emitting a deep blue light that pulsed in perfect synchronization with similar phenomena reported at other ancient sites. The pyramids of Giza, Göbekli Tepe, the underwater ruins off the coast of Japan. They were never just monuments, Eva explained, her skin taking on an opalescent sheen in the Monitor's light. They are nodes in a planetary network, placed there by civilizations long forgotten. The Monitor uses them to measure humanity's progress, to sample your species' collective consciousness. Dr. Blackwood burst into the room, his usual composure shattered. "You need to see this," he said, pulling up a new feed on the main screen. The image showed the night sky over Norway, but the stars were moving. "Ah," Eva smiled, her teeth gleaming with that impossible light. They're coming into alignment. The overseers are positioning themselves to observe the harvest. The sky above their facility rippled like water, and through the distortions they caught glimpses of something vast moving against the backdrop of space. The researchers watched in horror as familiar constellations shifted, forming patterns that human minds weren't meant to comprehend. Eva's form began to change as she watched the sky. Her skin became translucent, showing something beneath that moved and flowed like liquid starlight. "The Monitor's dreams are becoming stronger," she said, her voice now containing echoes of extinct species. "Soon it will fully awaken, and the true purpose of this world will be revealed." In the labs below, the resurrected tissue samples they'd used to create Eva had begun to change, evolving into forms that defied biological classification. Dr. Nakamura's team reported that the cells were reorganizing themselves into patterns that matched the moving stars above. "Your civilization stands at a crossroads," Eva continued. Turning to face Dr. Morgan, her eyes had become pools of swirling cosmos, reflecting worlds and realities that no human was meant to see. "The overseers have watched humanity build empires, develop technologies, reach for the stars. But now comes the true test, how you handle the knowledge of your place in their grand design." The facility's sensors began detecting massive energy signatures emerging from beneath the Earth's crust. Eva walked to the window, her movements leaving trails of light in the air. "The Monitor's consciousness is expanding. Can you feel it? The way it reaches into your minds, preparing them for the transformation." Dr. Morgan could feel it, a presence pushing against the edges of her consciousness, ancient and vast beyond comprehension. Around her, other researchers reported similar sensations, their minds filling with visions of impossible cities and civilizations that had risen and fallen on Earth long before humans walked upright. "I was like you once," Eva said, her voice somehow distant and intimately close at the same time. "A simple being, walking the Earth, unaware of the greater purpose. The overseers chose me then, as they choose humanity now. Through death and resurrection, I became something more. A bridge between what humanity is and what it might become." The ground beneath the facility trembled as something massive shifted in the depths. Eva's smile grew wider, her face becoming less and less human with each passing moment. "The Monitor awakens fully soon. The structures beneath your oceans will rise. The harvest will begin. And humanity will finally understand why Earth was positioned exactly here, in this precise spot in space, surrounded by these specific stars." Dr. Morgan watched as Eva's form became increasingly abstract, her human shape giving way to something that existed in more dimensions than the human mind could process. "What happens to humanity when the Monitor awakens?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "That depends entirely on you," Eva replied, her words now coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "The overseers have harvested thousands of species across millions of worlds. Some are preserved, their consciousness added to the great library of existence. Others are transformed, elevated to join the ranks of those who watch and guide. And some..." She paused, her form flickering between human and something else entirely. "Some are found wanting, and their worlds are wiped clean, ready to begin the experiment anew." The oceans began to glow at night, a deep bioluminescence that spread across the waters like a living thing. Satellite images showed massive shapes moving beneath the surface, structures larger than cities rising from their ancient slumber. The Elysium Institute had become a hub of frenetic activity as scientists struggled to understand and document the impossible changes sweeping across the planet. Eva no longer pretended to be human. Her form shifted constantly now, her body a swirling mass of light and shadow that hurt the eyes to look at directly. She moved through the facility's walls as if they didn't exist, appearing and disappearing at will, her presence leaving trails of strange phenomena in her wake. "The monitor's consciousness expands," she announced one morning, her voice resonating through the entire facility without using the intercom. "It touches the minds of every living being on Earth, preparing them for what comes next." Dr. Morgan had noticed the changes in her colleagues. People would stop mid-sentence, their eyes going distant, as they experienced visions of other worlds, other times. Dr. Blackwood had spent 3 hours writing on the walls in a language that hadn't existed on Earth for millions of years, only to have no memory of doing so afterward. "Your consciousness is evolving," Eva explained, hovering near the ceiling of the main laboratory. "The monitor's awakening triggers dormant potentials in your species, abilities that the overseers planted in your genetic code eons ago." The evidence was undeniable. Around the world, people began displaying impossible abilities. Children spoke of memories from civilizations that had risen and fallen before the dinosaurs walked the earth. Artists created images of cities that had never existed on this world, yet their paintings all showed the same impossible architectures. Dr. Nakamura's team had been monitoring the global phenomena when they made a startling discovery. "The DNA sequences we used to resurrect Eva," she reported, her voice trembling. "They're changing in people worldwide. It's like her presence activated something dormant in the human genome." Eva appeared beside her, causing several researchers to stumble backward. "Of course they are," she said, her form rippling, with colours that didn't exist in the visible spectrum. "Did you think you were the only ones to achieve resurrection? The technology has been spreading through dreams, through whispered thoughts, through the collective unconscious. Others are attempting it now, bringing back the ancient dead, not realizing they're actually creating conduits for the overseers." Screens around the facility lit up with reports from other research centers worldwide. In Peru, a team had resurrected an ancient priest, only to watch in horror as he transformed into something beyond human understanding. In Egypt, another group had brought back a pharaoh who now spoke in tongues that drove listeners to madness. "The final phase approaches," Eva said, her presence filling the room with a pressure that made ears pop and minds strain. "The monitor rises not just to observe, but to transform. Earth was seeded with life for this purpose, to create beings capable of transcending their original forms." Through the facility's windows, they could see the northern lights dancing in impossible patterns, forming images that seemed to tell stories of ancient worlds and long-dead species. But these weren't the familiar auroras. These lights reached down from space like fingers, probing the Earth's surface, searching. "Watch," Eva commanded, and the air around them shifted, showing visions of other worlds where similar transformations had occurred. They saw countless civilizations reaching their moment of transformation, some ascending to join the overseers, others being preserved in vast cosmic libraries, and some simply vanishing, their worlds wiped clean to begin anew. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, the monitor's consciousness expanded. Its dreams touched every living mind, showing them glimpses of humanity's possible futures. Some saw transcendence, evolution beyond physical form. Others saw preservation, their consciousness stored in vast cosmic archives. And some saw extinction, a reset that would leave Earth ready for the next experiment. Dr. Morgan found herself drawn to the facility's highest observation deck, where Eva waited in a form that seemed to be composed of living starlight. "Why show us all this?" she asked. "Why not simply proceed with whatever the overseers have planned?" Eva's response came not in words but in direct thoughts, images that bloomed in Morgan's mind like flowers of fire. She saw the true scope of the overseers' project, not just Earth, but thousands of worlds, each an experiment in consciousness and evolution. She saw how some species chose to resist the transformation, fighting against their own transcendence, only to be found unworthy and reset. "The choice must be conscious," Eva finally said, her voice carrying the weight of countless extinct civilizations. "The transformation requires understanding, acceptance, participation. Those who fight against it prove themselves unready for the next phase of existence." The ground shook as another of the Monitor's ancient structures rose from the depths, this one in the Arctic Ocean. Its emergence sent waves of psychic energy across the planet, causing millions to experience simultaneous visions of humanity's possible futures. "The time of choice approaches," Ava announced, her form now a writhing mass of light and possibility. "The Monitor will fully awaken and humanity will face its moment of truth. Will you ascend to join those who shepherd existence? Will you accept preservation in the cosmic library? Or will you resist and face the Great Reset?" As if in response to her words, the stars above began to shift once more, forming patterns that spoke of endings and beginnings, of death and rebirth, of transformation and transcendence. The Monitor's dream grew stronger, and across the planet, humanity stood on the brink of the greatest change in its existence. The day the harvest began, the sky turned colors that human eyes had never been meant to see. The Monitor's structures had fully emerged from the oceans, vast geometric formations that defied physics and architecture alike. They pulsed with internal light, sending waves of energy across the planet that left every human consciousness trembling in its wake. In the Elysium Institute, Dr. Morgan watched as Eva's transformation reached its completion. Gone was any pretense of humanity. She had become a being of pure energy and thought, her form a swirling vortex of possibilities that hurt the mind to perceive. "The technology you used to resurrect me," Eva's voice echoed through reality itself, "was never meant for simple revival. It was designed to open doorways in human consciousness, to prepare your species for the harvest." Around the world, other resurrection attempts had created more beings like Eva, ancient humans transformed into conduits for the Overseer's power. Each one became a focal point for the transformation, their presence causing ripples in reality that spread outward like waves on a cosmic ocean. Dr. Blackwood stumbled into the observation room, his eyes wild. "The Monitor's energy signature. It's changing everything it touches. Human DNA is responding, evolving in real time. We're becoming something else." Eva's presence filled the room, her consciousness touching each mind present. Through her, they could feel the Overseers watching, vast intelligences beyond the veil of normal space-time, observing humanity's response to the harvest. "Your consciousness extraction technology," she explained, her words carrying images directly into their minds, "was designed to prepare humanity for separation from physical form. Those who accept transformation will find their consciousness elevated, merged with the greater awareness that the Overseers represent." The air itself seemed to vibrate with potential as the Monitor's influence reached its peak. Across the planet, humans began experiencing the first stages of transformation. Some reported their consciousness expanding beyond their bodies, touching minds across vast distances. Others found themselves remembering lives from Earth's previous cycles, civilizations that had risen and fallen in the grand experiment. "Every few millennia," Eva continued, her form rippling with cosmic energy, "a species reaches this point. The Monitor awakens, and the Overseers evaluate their potential. Some achieve transcendence, joining the ranks of those who guide universal evolution. Others are preserved, their knowledge and consciousness added to the vast library of existence." Dr. Morgan watched in awe as the first willing humans began their transformation. Those who embraced the change found their consciousness expanding, their understanding growing beyond physical limitations. The process was beautiful and terrifying to witness. human forms becoming pure energy, merging with the greater awareness that the overseers represented. But not everyone welcomed the change. Around the world, some fought against the transformation, their resistance creating ripples of discord in the Monitor's carefully orchestrated harvest. Eva's presence seemed to darken as she observed these pockets of rebellion. "Resistance is expected," she said, her voice carrying echoes of countless similar harvests on countless worlds. "It is part of the test. Those who cannot transcend their limited perspective, who cling to their current form despite the greater purpose being revealed, they demonstrate their unreadiness for evolution." The Monitor's structures pulsed with increasing intensity, their energy reaching into every corner of the planet. In orbit, astronauts reported seeing vast shapes moving through space, the overseers positioning themselves to observe humanity's moment of choice. Dr. Nakamura, who had been monitoring the global transformation, suddenly gasped. Her consciousness had begun to expand, touching the edges of something vast and infinite. "I can see them," she whispered, her eyes reflecting impossible visions. "The overseers. They're beautiful." Eva moved to her, her form shifting to accommodate Nakamura's expanding awareness. "Yes," she said, her voice gentle now. "This is what awaits those who choose ascension. The ability to see beyond the veil, to understand the true nature of existence, to join in the shepherding of universal evolution." The air crackled with potential as more humans began their transformation. The Monitor's dream had become reality, its ancient purpose finally revealed, not just to observe, but to facilitate the evolution of consciousness itself. Dr. Morgan felt the change beginning within her own mind, a gradual expansion of awareness that showed her glimpses of realities beyond human understanding. Through these expanding perceptions, she began to grasp the true scope of the Overseer's project, not just Earth, but countless worlds throughout the universe, each one an experiment in consciousness evolution. "The harvest is not an ending," Eva explained, her presence encompassing all of reality. "It is a beginning. Those who ascend will join the Overseers in guiding the next cycle of evolution. Those who are preserved will contribute their knowledge to the universal consciousness. And those who resist," she paused, her form flickering with ancient memories, "those who resist will sleep, their world renewed for the next experiment." The Monitor's power reached its peak, and humanity stood at the crossroads of its existence. The choice lay before them: ascension, preservation, or resistance. And through it all, the Overseers watched, waiting to see which path Earth's children would choose. The transformation of humanity had begun in earnest. The Monitor's energies reached into every corner of the globe, its ancient consciousness touching every living mind. From the Elysium Institute's observation deck, Dr. Morgan watched as the aurora above had transformed into a curtain of living light that stretched across the horizon, its colours shifting through spectrums that human eyes had never been meant to perceive. Eva had become something beyond comprehension, her form a swirling nexus of energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Through her, the Overseers observed humanity's response to the harvest, their vast consciousness reaching across space and time to witness this crucial moment in Earth's development. "Look," Eva's voice resonated through reality itself, directing their attention to the screens showing global phenomena. "The first wave of ascension begins." Across the planet, those who embraced transformation were changing. Their physical forms dissolved into pure energy, their consciousness expanding to join with the greater awareness that the Overseers represented. It began with small groups, scientists who understood the implications, spiritualists who had somehow always known this moment would come, and ordinary people who simply felt the rightness of the change in their souls. Dr. Blackwood monitored the process, his own consciousness beginning to stretch beyond its original boundaries. "The DNA alterations are accelerating," he reported, his voice containing harmonics that hadn't existed before. "Those who accept the change are experiencing a complete restructuring of their genetic code. It's as if our DNA always contained this potential, waiting for the right moment to activate." Through the expanding awareness that the transformation granted, they could perceive the overseers more clearly now. They weren't the simple aliens that human science fiction had imagined. They were fundamentally different forms of existence, beings who had transcended physical reality eons ago to become shepherds of universal evolution. "Your species stands at a crossroads," Eva explained, her presence filling the facility with possibilities. "The Monitor's awakening forces a choice: ascend to join those who guide existence, accept preservation in the cosmic library, or face the Great Reset. There is no middle ground, no way to maintain your current form of existence." But not everyone welcomed the change. Around the world, pockets of resistance formed. Some tried to fight against the transformation, their limited understanding causing them to see it as an invasion rather than an evolution. The Monitor's structures pulsed with increased intensity, their energy patterns shifting to accommodate this resistance. "It is as it has always been." Eva's voice carried the weight of ancient knowledge. "In every harvest, across countless worlds, some resist the call to evolution. Their fear of change, their attachment to their current form of existence, marks them as unready for the next phase." Dr. Morgan watched as the choice played out across the globe. Through her expanding consciousness, she could perceive the three paths humanity was dividing itself along. The ascendant ones, their forms becoming pure energy as they joined with the Overseer's greater purpose. The preserved ones, their consciousness carefully archived in vast cosmic libraries, their knowledge and experiences saved for future reference. And the resistant ones, their minds turning away from the truth, choosing stagnation over evolution. The Monitor's dream reached its peak, its ancient purpose finally revealed in full. The structures that had risen from the oceans began to pulse in perfect synchronization, their energy forming a web around the planet. Through this web, the Overseer's influence reached every corner of Earth, offering each human being their final choice. "The harvest cannot be stopped," Eva announced, as the sky above them seemed to fold in on itself, revealing glimpses of realities beyond human comprehension. "The Monitor's awakening signals the end of this cycle. Earth will be transformed. The only question is whether humanity will transform with it." Dr. Nakamura, who had already begun her ascension, her form becoming increasingly abstract, shared her expanding vision with her colleagues. Through her new awareness, they could see the truth about Earth's position in space, how it had been carefully placed in this exact spot, surrounded by specific stellar configurations, all to facilitate this moment of transformation. "The Overseers did not create humanity," Eva explained, a presence encompassing all of reality. "They created the conditions for humanity to reach this point. Every major leap in human development, every crucial discovery, every significant evolution, all were steps leading to this moment of choice." The Monitor's power reached its absolute peak, and reality itself began to shift. Those who had chosen ascension found their consciousness expanding beyond all physical limitations, joining with the vast network of evolved beings that the Overseers represented. Those who chose preservation felt their minds being carefully copied and stored, their experiences and knowledge safeguarded for future cycles of existence. And those who resisted, they began to feel the first effects of the reset, their memories growing foggy, their consciousness preparing for a long sleep, while Earth renewed itself for the next experiment. The transformation of Earth reached its crescendo. The Monitor's structures, now fully awakened, created a lattice of pure energy that encased the planet like a living web. The sky had become a window into other dimensions, showing glimpses of realities that existed beyond human understanding. Through these tiers in space-time, the Overseers watched as humanity faced its moment of ultimate choice. Dr. Morgan stood in the Elysium Institute's highest observation level. Her consciousness expanded far beyond its original boundaries. She could perceive the truth now, how Earth had always been more than just a planet. It was a crucible, a testing ground, a place where consciousness could evolve under carefully controlled conditions. Eva had become a being of pure light and thought, her presence filling every corner of reality. Through her, the Overseers communicated their final message to humanity. The cycle nears completion. Her voice resonated through dimensions. The experiment has yielded results beyond our initial parameters. Humanity has shown remarkable potential for evolution. Around the globe, the three paths of humanity's future manifested simultaneously. Those who chose ascension underwent the final stages of their transformation. Their physical forms dissolved into pure energy as their consciousness expanded to join the Overseers' vast network of evolved beings. They became aware of truths that their human minds could never have comprehended. The true nature of reality, the purpose of existence, the grand design that guided universal evolution. Dr. Blackwood, who had chosen this path, shared his final human moments with his colleagues. "It's beautiful," he whispered, as his form began to shift into pure energy. "We were so small before, seeing only shadows of reality. Now I understand everything." His consciousness expanded outward, joining with the greater awareness that the Overseers represented. The second group, those who chose preservation, experienced a different kind of transformation. The Monitor's energy gently copied their consciousness, storing every memory, every experience, every piece of knowledge in vast cosmic archives. Dr. Nakamura oversaw this process, her expanded awareness allowing her to ensure that nothing was lost, that humanity's journey would be preserved for future reference. Every thought, every dream, every moment of human existence, Eva explained, her form rippling with cosmic energy, will be preserved in the Universal Library. Future species will learn from your experiences, your triumphs, your failures. Nothing is truly lost, it simply changes form. But the third group, those who resisted the change, faced a different fate. The Monitor's energy began to induce a deep sleep in their minds, preparing them for the Great Reset. Their memories would fade, their consciousness would sleep, and the Earth would be renewed for the next cycle of evolution. Through her expanded awareness, Dr. Morgan could perceive the Overseers more clearly now. They weren't cruel or malevolent. They were simply vast, their purpose extending across billions of years and countless worlds. Earth was one of many experiments in consciousness evolution, each cycle bringing new possibilities, new potential for advancement. "The harvest is not an ending," Eva's voice carried the wisdom of countless civilizations. "It is a transformation, a step in the eternal dance of existence. Those who ascend will join us in guiding the next cycle. Those who are preserved will contribute their knowledge to the universal consciousness. And those who sleep, they will have another chance in another cycle when Earth blooms anew." The Monitor's structures pulsed with final purpose, their energy reaching a peak that transformed reality itself. The sky above the Elysium Institute shattered like glass, revealing the true nature of space, not the empty void humans had always perceived, but a living, breathing cosmos filled with consciousness and purpose. Through the broken veil of reality, Dr. Morgan could see them clearly now. The Overseers in their true form. They existed in dimensions beyond human comprehension, their consciousness spanning galaxies, their purpose extending to the very edges of existence. They were the shepherds of evolution, the gardeners of consciousness, the architects of universal advancement. Eva's form began to merge with the greater reality, her purpose as herald and harbinger complete. Remember, her voice echoed through time and space, Earth was never just a planet. It was a seed, planted in fertile, cosmic soil, waiting for consciousness to bloom. And now, as it has countless times before, that bloom reaches its peak. The final moment of transformation arrived. The monitor's energy reached its absolute crescendo, and reality itself began to shift. Those who had chosen ascension found their consciousness expanding into infinity, becoming one with the universal design. Those who chose preservation felt their minds being carefully archived, their experiences becoming part of the cosmic library of existence. And as the Great Reset began for those who had chosen sleep, the stars above rearranged themselves once more, preparing to witness the next cycle of Earth's eternal experiment. The Elysium Institute, the birthplace of this final revelation, stood as a silent witness to humanity's greatest transformation. Dr. Morgan, in her final moments of human consciousness, understood at last. Earth had never been just a home. It had been a cocoon, a place where consciousness could grow and evolve until it was ready to emerge into a greater reality. And now, as humanity transcended its original form, she knew that this was not the end of the story, but merely the beginning of a new chapter in the endless book of existence. The Monitor's dream became reality, and Earth transformed one final time, ready to begin anew, while its children who had chosen evolution spread across the cosmos, joining the eternal dance of consciousness that had always been their destiny.